Your breaking news now as Metro Police released this picture of a suspect in a disturbing weekend murder. There's a series of pictures. You see the suspect, the man they're looking for in connection with this murder, is an African-American man. He appears to have an eye patch over his right eye. At the time this picture was taken, he's wearing a Sox baseball cap. Now, the victim in this case, Rasheed Walker, is a member of the Metro Schools family. According to police, Walker died over the weekend after being gunned down with an assault-style rifle as he ran away on Todd Boulevard. Metro Police are looking for the person, the shooter. They believe that to be the person that we showed you the picture of seconds ago. Walker, who worked with students at Cora House School in East Nashville, is also well known in the community in youth basketball circles. He was a volunteer there and started the nonprofit Hustle Strong. He's also recovering, or I should say used his recovery from a bad car crash to teach his students about resilience.
Right now, Tennessee is seeing 33,000 fewer students in our schools compared to this same time last year. Advocacy groups say that major enrollment drop is a huge concern. Fox 17 News' Rachel Teedy is live with how some say changes need to be made to save our children's education. Hi, Rachel.
When it comes to COVID-19, sure has thrown a loop for school districts across the state, across the country, jumping back and forth between virtual, hybrid, traditional. It's confusing for everybody involved. But some kids not enrolling in public schools at all, and advocacy groups say that's a problem. During the first month of last school year, the state saw about 969,000 students. This year, we're seeing about 935,000. That's about 33,000 fewer students, and advocacy groups say that can't continue.
We knew that this was happening, and it was our biggest fear.
Sonia Thomas is a parent herself. She said she's worried about kids who didn't enroll this year, and that it might be due to a variety of reasons. Transferring to private schools, not having internet, not realizing it was time to enroll, or choosing to homeschool instead.
We're also fearing that students are having difficulties at home, having to help with the family and having to work.
Fox 17 News reached out to the state to ask how it plans to get these numbers back up. Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn said in a statement, quote, "The COVID-19 pandemic may have had an impact on enrollment this school year. However, the first reporting period, which is the first 20 days of the school year, is preliminary and historically reflects lower enrollment counts than what is reported in the final calculation at the end of the school year." Sonia says she wants to see a specific plan and is anxious to see the results of state testing this year. Dr. Schwinn said in a press conference about a month ago, testing is still planned, but that they want some grace for teachers and schools if the results aren't what they should be.
We also know that for purposes of using those results for any kind of accountability or negative consequences, just isn't as appropriate this year, given all the contextual changes in the context in which we find ourselves.
Parents need to know where their children are. We need to know, and we need to trust that the education that our children are receiving is a quality education.
For Metro Nashville and the surrounding counties, surrounding communities, we're seeing about a 3 to 5% decrease when it comes to student enrollment. The state's district for those struggling students, which is called the Achievement School District, sitting at a 15% decline.
New tonight, according to the TBI, Tennessee ranks first in the Southeast when it comes to violent gun crimes. The statistics show a lot of that stems from domestic violence. Fox 17 News' Alex Apple live tonight after finding out the state has a big problem taking guns away from abusers. Alex?
Stacey, a loophole in Tennessee law allows violent criminals to keep their firearms even after they've been convicted of something violent. Now, the law's not supposed to work this way, but there was a provision in it that allows these criminals to give their guns to friends or family members, and a lot of times that means they end right up back in the wrong hands.
Yes, I was 10-11.
Looking at the smile on Sparkle Johnson's face.
Yeah, meatloaf is one of my favorites.
When we first met her in 2018, we had no idea the hell she'd been through.
You name it, beat, raped, pistol whooped, played Russian roulette with my life.
14 times police came to try to save Sparkle from her abuser, Tavares Buchanan.
He pulled out the gun for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that being said, I did stay for that reason after that.
Buchanan was finally convicted and sent away to prison, but loopholes often allow the Buchanans of Tennessee to keep their guns. When someone's convicted of domestic violence and a judge orders them to give up their guns, they can do one of three things: take them to police, a licensed dealer, or give them to a third party, like a family member or a friend. And here's the kicker: there are no resources available to follow up and make sure the convicted actually gave up the weapon. And those given to family and friends often end up back in the wrong hands.
That alone says I'm not done with the work. That alone says I haven't been reformed. That alone says I still plan to hurt and endanger.
Do you lay it mostly on our laws as being the fault of this, or is it an ability to enforce that, or an ability to fund it and make it happen?
I think it's the ability to enforce it. I think we have the laws. I think it's prohibited.
Verna Wyatt from Tennessee Voices for Victims calls this a systemic failure. Words echoed by Sparkle, who lived it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like you're describing a total systemic failure, pretty much.
It is. It's definitely a systemic failure.
So, who's to blame? Judges can't follow up on their own. Law enforcement has little time or money to make the follow-up calls. And the legislature wrote laws, but they are not being enforced.
It's a systemic failure in Tennessee. Who is to blame? There's so many reasons why this is happening. But in 2017, 76% of women in this state that were murdered were killed by a man were done so with a gun. And the overwhelming majority of those women knew the man that killed them.
In the path forward, the mayor of Columbia is now adding his voice to the push to get Governor Bill Lee to issue a statewide mask mandate.
He says that passing that responsibility down to county leaders in Tennessee simply isn't working. Fox 17 News' Kathleen Cerise live in Nashville with the latest from the mayor of Columbia, Chaz Mulder.
Well, according to the State Department of Health's website, Murray County has been on the White House's red zone list since the beginning of November. But still, there's no mask mandate there. But it's not action from county leadership that this local mayor wants to see. He wants to see action from Governor Lee. City of Columbia Mayor Chaz Mulder says he's been hearing more and more heartbreaking COVID-19 stories from his community.
This morning I was walking to work and I was stopped in the middle of the road by a lady who wanted to tell me that after 18 days in the hospital and being on the ventilator for 10 days, they were having to make the difficult decision to take their mother off the ventilator.
The latest statistics from the state show an average 7-day positivity rate of around 19.5% in Murray County. Over the last 14 days, the county averaged around 83 new cases per day, but that average was only around 49 new cases per day in the previous 2 weeks. Mulder says what we're doing right now isn't working, and we need a statewide mask mandate from Governor Lee.
If the White House is telling us, if CDC is telling us, if our own experts are telling us that a mask mandate can save lives and help stop the spread, then the question is, why not do it?
Mulder says it's not fair to pass the responsibility down to the county level.
We travel in and out of these counties on a daily basis. And so to say, oh, I'm going to leave it up to the county, that sounds good, but it's just not practical. Unless you have a consistent mandate that applies all across the state's 95 counties, then it might as well not have a mandate at all.
I reached out to Murray County Mayor Andy Ogles today for reaction to Mulder's statements, if this would change your stance at all about the mask mandate. But he couldn't do an interview. He did send a statement saying a vote from the General Assembly would be the legal way to order a statewide mask mandate. Governor Lee's office says his position on masks hasn't changed, and that he believes statewide one-size-fits-all government mandates aren't the best way to achieve sustainable compliance, and that most people are more likely to trust their local leaders. Right now, 25 counties in Tennessee have a mask requirement that covers just over 66% of the state's overall population.